get straight to the point.
I mean, it's like a lake. Our cars, everything. We've lived here for 30 years.
Quench not the spirit. Despise not prophesying. Prove all things. Hold fast that which is good. Abstain from all appearance of evil. And the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray God your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Proceeds from the mouth of God.
I'll get straight to the point. On June 15th, on June 15th, 2025, I went into the prayer closet. I felt a heaviness, and I felt like the Lord told me that something will happen in America. On July 3rd of this year.
Management area and Lost Maples State Natural Area. Precautionary preparedness action.
I don't want to speak presumptuously. I don't want to assume that, and I don't want to say that the Lord said this. I think that's what He was telling me. I could be wrong. I have to say what I think He's speaking to me. I just think that's what I heard. I felt it. It was supernatural. But I just wanted to share that. Love you all in Jesus' name. Shalom. So last Friday, I did record a video about what the Lord told me on June 15th. And last Friday was 6/22. So today is, no, excuse me. It was like the, let's see. Today's the 27th, so last Friday was the 20th. Anyways, I just wanted to have it. I know in the video I didn't really specify because I want to be careful with my words, and people don't believe in the Lord. They don't believe in prophecy. They don't believe that the Lord can speak to people, children. But yeah, so what I was just gonna say is that the Lord told me something would happen on July 3rd, 2025. I went into the prayer closet just to pray. It was just, I got up at around 5 a.m. on my brother's birthday, 6:15, and I just went in there just to pray I had no idea what was going to happen. And it was just this heaviness that fell over me that was so hard to, it was hard to understand. It was just this heaviness. And I'm even feeling the heaviness right now talking about this. And when I went to pray, you know, I could feel what the Lord was telling me. It wasn't just like I heard an audible voice. I wasn't thinking about this. I wasn't meditating on it. I didn't have a dream about it. I was fully awake, and it was a specific thing that the Lord told me. As far as the specific thing that the Lord told me, it wasn't a dream. I was fully awake. I was in the prayer closet. I even wrote down my notes. What the Lord told me. So, you know, if it comes to pass, then God, you know, I don't want people to get hurt. I don't want nothing to happen. But if it is true, then I don't know if I should warn people. I don't know. I'm gonna wait on the Lord what I should do. But that's why I'm documenting it now, to say that on July 3rd, the Lord told me that something will happen. And I was watching a pastor, beloved pastor, and he said that in 2001, he was doing communion on New Year's, spending time with the Lord with his brothers and sisters, and he received a prophecy that New York and DC would be attacked. It was so specific. It was so specific to where, and he wasn't even thinking about that. And when my wife showed me that video and I was watching it, I was working on the documentaries, and I was just like, that's literally how I felt with this, where like I wasn't thinking about it and I just said it. Well, I didn't say it publicly, but like the Lord just told me without me premeditating on it. So I just want to document it, and may the Lord get the glory from this situation. In Jesus' name, shalom.
Management area and Lost Maples State Natural Area. Precautionary preparedness action.
Las Vegas. We are on Tropicana in front of the Walmart. Every last one of the light poles, the electricity poles are down. This goes for miles. We ain't got no power. I don't know what the heck. This goes for miles, y'all. Look at the cords on the ground. It goes all the way down. Miles. What the hell? What the hell? All of these are down, y'all. Every last one of the powers down.
Why is no one talking about the portal that was literally just caught opening right in between the Earth's atmosphere and space? Yeah, and what's even worse is they're calling it red lightning and saying that it created something called a sprite and they caught it from outer space. And it's not like a little tiny, like, ooh, it's just a little light. No, I know a portal when I see one. Yeah, and like the same day, CERN apparently turned on the Hadron Collider to now begin to discover new particles by colliding with oxygen now. Oxygen. They're around with oxygen and the Hadron Collider smashing particles into each other, and all of a sudden we get this magnificent, glorious sprite on camera. So this is the picture that was actually caught by an astronaut and sent it on down to space to let us know what's going on, and that's what they caught. A sprite, red lightning, and I just want to know, we are being gaslit. The fact that this happens right as they begin to smash particles of oxygen into other particles with that Hadron Collider to try to recreate the beginning of the universe still over there at CERN, I think it's kind of mysterious. But what they're saying is that that astronaut snapped a giant red jellyfish sprite over North America during upward shooting lightning event. This was captured by astronaut Nicole Ayers, and basically it was shooting up over Mexico and the southern U.S. states. So that researchers are saying they don't know what caused it.
I mean, it's like a lake. Our cars, everything. We've lived here for 30 years. Okay, my house is flooding. Anybody out there? I have my dad on hospice and I need to get him out of here. He's bedridden, he can't walk, he can hardly move, and look where the water is. So somebody please, we've called 911. It's bad over here. In front of the house, it's like a river. I mean, it's like a lake. They can't come look. We've lost our cars, everything. We've lived here for 30 years and this has never happened. Look, so anybody please, if you have a boat or something, I need help. I need to get my dad out of here. It's starting to smell like sewer in here.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh no. Oh my god. What the? Oh no.
It's terrible. The floods, it's shocking. They don't know the answer yet as to how many people, but it looks like some young people have died. Any federal aid for the... Oh yeah, sure. We'll take care of it. We're working with the governor. We're working with the governor. It's a terrible thing.
Lowered, knowing that if they got caught in the trees, they would be cut loose. Sergeant Mackenzie first tried to reach 16-year-old Scott Chatham, already weakened by leukemia and chemotherapy. Army rescuers pulled 26 people out of the trees. By 11:30 that morning, it was over. 33 people had been saved. But 10 children died in the waters of the Guadalupe River.
Many people have been comparing this Guadalupe flood to the flood of 1987. Some of you might remember this. This was July 16th of 1987, where a very similar situation happened. A foot of rain fell near Hunt. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happened yesterday. Guadalupe River rose 29 feet. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happened yesterday. And unfortunately, a bus carrying summer campers tried to cross the Guadalupe River at Comfort and was swept away. So just a devastating, tragic situation that happened over a holiday weekend where people are camping along the river. Many
From devastating droughts to deadly deluge, welcome to weather warfare. 24 dead in Texas, dozens of girls at Camp Mystic missing after catastrophic flooding. That's from the Weather Channel. From Newsbreak.com, drought to deluge, why weather extremes are becoming the new normal. Yes, they are. But why? Keep your eyes to the skies and you'll have your answer. From Conflict and Environmental Observatory, this headline, INMOD Environmental Modification Treaties to Geoengineering, the environment as a weapon of war. For the record, all the way back in the 1960s, the U.S. military was so successful at controlling the flow of precipitation in Vietnam that by the 1970s, international treaties were passed forbidding such operations in wartime settings. Does any country abide by such treaties? Of course not, most especially over their own populations for which the international treaties did not even apply. Here's proof from the U.S. Department of State.gov. Quote, the provisions of this convention shall not hinder the use of environmental modification techniques for peaceful purposes. Next question, does what just happened in Texas, along with the rest of the not natural climate cataclysms around the world, fall under the definition of peaceful? Short answer, absolutely not. Next question, how much more effective are the weather manipulation, weather warfare technologies today after 60 years of advancements? You decide. If you think the money printers that ultimately control the U.S. government and military are here to help you and your posterity, think again. Populations are a rapidly increasing liability for the controllers who are now more desperate and dangerous than ever before.
Northern California, we've got a bit of an unusual situation. Now, this first portion of the radar cycle, fairly bland and typical, but then you see these bands of very distinct cloud cover moving into the region. That is not rain, that is not snow. Believe it or not, military aircraft flying through the region is dropping chaff. Small bits of aluminum, sometimes it's made of plastic or even metallicized paper products, but it's used as an anti-radar issue, and obviously they're up there practicing. Now, they won't confirm that, but I was in the Marine Corps for many years, and I'll tell you right now, that's what it is. 50 in Medford right now, 48 in Wairika, 42 in Klamath Falls. Forecast.
How much would it take for you to drink that water? How much money?
Hey, we're camping in this beautiful state park in Texas, and it's been raining, and the water that's coming out of the sky is blue. And it's not this tarp, because it's happening on this tarp too. Look at that. This is crazy. Are they chemtrailing us in Texas?
So to give you the overview of what cloud seeding is, about 93% of all of the liquid water that traverses, liquid and ice water that traverses the lower atmosphere over the U.S., so the water in the clouds, right? About 93% of that doesn't precipitate over land. It just evaporates away or gets recycled by the oceans. That means that there's a ton of water up there that's just going to waste that you can bring down. So certain clouds that aren't naturally precipitating or that aren't very efficiently precipitating, you can identify those with radar. You can measure that there's liquid in them that isn't coming down, fly a drone up into them, disperse a material that freezes the liquid in the cloud. And we can talk about what that material is later, but disperse a material that freezes the liquid in the cloud into big, heavy snowflakes that become heavy enough to fall down, and if it's warm beneath the cloud, melt into rain. If it's cold, stay as snow. And so if you just blast a cloud, right, that isn't, and then it rains, that isn't necessarily proof that you caused it to rain, right? Like maybe you're just good at picking clouds that were going to rain anyway. And so nobody could really justify doing this at scale up until 2017. And what changed then was the National Center of Atmospheric Research, an organization called NCAR out in Colorado. They realized if you have the right wavelength of radar, of dual polarization radar, which I'll talk about again in a sec too, but if you have the right kind of radar and you fly in a zigzag, right, or in a circle, or in your initials, and you only see precipitation on the radar in your flight track, then you can say, oh, that is definitively man-made because we flew in this zigzag or we flew in this spiral and there's only precipitation occurring in that shape. They did that in Idaho in 2017 multiple times. And that was the very first time that people were able to show, one, that it was unambiguously working, and two, that they can measure how much water they put on the ground.
Cloud seeding is conventionally done with a chemical called silver iodide. Its LD50, so its lethal dose, is 10 times higher than aspirin. And we're using about 50 grams per each operation. That's as much as can fit in the palm of your hand, right? That's less flour than is in a slice of bread. So the amount that accumulates into watersheds is in the parts per trillion after decades of operation, and we have data to prove that from programs that exist throughout the United States. This leads me into another point, which is the precedent that other states have set in cloud seeding permitting and licensing. So I think that, per what I said at the top of my commentary, the spirit of this bill to protect Floridians, to protect Americans from environmental pollution, that is great. And I think that permitting and licensing absolutely should exist. It does exist in states like Texas and Utah and Idaho. So this isn't a blue state or red state issue. California has a process as well. New Mexico has a process. And we don't want anybody wantonly modifying the weather. So implementing a permitting regime so that it's only done responsibly and safely with best-in-class meteorological practices, that makes sense. And we advocate for that. Not only do we advocate for that, we, Rainmaker Technology Corporation, has engineers in all of those states that I mentioned that are actively modifying the weather, that are actively enhancing precipitation for farmers and reservoirs and cities that are undergoing drought. And that brings me into like my third and closing point. Like, what is this bill about? What are we voting on here? Yes, this has to do with Florida, first and foremost. I don't think that burdening the state with more regulation, with more permitting on investigation is something that it would necessarily be excited about, but if it was for the sake of protecting Floridians, that makes sense. I don't think that we want to prevent Florida's access to best-in-class technology for their agriculture and their water and their wildlife, but more than that, it has to do with the United States, both domestically and abroad. No ifs, ands, or buts. Mar-a-Lago exists here. Florida is a very consequential state within the United States, and if weather modification is banned here, that sets a precedent to deprive farmers in even more arid regions of the country from getting access to water from cloud seeding. And so if only for the sake of other Americans, for other farming interests, for other cities like Salt Lake, which is currently radically under budget for their water supply, and people are getting respiratory issues from the dust kicked up from the evaporation, cloud seeding could mitigate that. If this precedent is set here, it could affect other Americans. And not only could it affect us immediately within the United States, but long-term it could affect us geopolitically, because China has a $300 million annual budget for weather. My name is Augustus DeRico. I'm the CEO and founder of Rainmaker. We're a cloud seeding company that is enhancing precipitation via advanced radar and also drones for the sake of supplementing water supplies for farms, cities, reservoirs, and wildlife throughout the United States. Our ultimate vision is to end water scarcity, and we've begun that mission already. I'm testifying to not oppose the spirit of this bill, which I think is well-founded, but the current configuration of the bill that I think would impede this mission for ending water scarcity, and also for bringing the best-in-class technology to Florida and the rest of the United States. And so the first point that I'd like to make is the difference between solar radiation management and cloud seeding. And so Senator Garcia did bring this up briefly. Solar radiation management is a very new technology. It's not something that's been tested at length. NOAA has done some very initial experiments on its efficacy. It is attempting to reduce the amount of solar radiation that makes it down to the planet by injecting reflective aerosols into the upper atmosphere. Once you inject these aerosols, they stay in the stratosphere for years. They have effects on the entire climate. The data from these experiments, because the experiments have been so few, is limited. And so the implications of them are not something that are well tested yet. Cloud seeding is altogether different. The only similarity is that it has to do with the atmosphere. It has to do with the low atmosphere. It's a mechanism, or it's a tool that either freezes the water in existing clouds or condenses the droplets in existing clouds into bigger snowflakes or bigger droplets such that they fall onto your target watershed or farm. It's a technology that has existed for 80 years in the United States. It was patented by GE in 1946, but it hasn't been viable for a long time because we didn't have the appropriate radar to measure exactly what its effect is. I can tell you definitively that there is not cloud seeding going on in the state of Florida, because you would be able to see it's the United States. And if weather modification is banned here, that sets a precedent to deprive farmers in even more arid regions of the country from getting access to water from cloud seeding. And so if only for the sake of other Americans, for other farming interests, for other cities like Salt Lake, which is currently radically under budget for their water supply, and people are getting respiratory issues from the dust kicked up from the evaporation, cloud seeding could mitigate that. If this precedent is set here, it could affect other Americans. And not only could it affect us immediately within the United States, but long-term it could affect us geopolitically, because China has a $300 million annual budget for weather modification research and operations. And if we are to ban this here, if that precedent is set throughout the rest of the United States and perhaps federally, then we will lose control over the weather to China. And that's not something that I, as a patriot, or I think anybody else in Florida would advocate for. So in closing, I think that meteorological practices That makes sense, and we advocate for that. Not only do we advocate for that, we, Rainmaker Technology Corporation, has engineers in all of those states that I mentioned that are actively modifying the weather, that are actively enhancing precipitation for farmers and reservoirs and cities that are undergoing drought. And that brings me into like my third and closing point. Like, what is this bill about? What are we voting on here? Yes, this has to do with Florida, first and foremost. I don't think that burdening the state with more regulation, with more permitting on investigation is something that it would necessarily be excited about, but if it was for the sake of protecting Floridians, that makes sense. I don't think that we want to prevent Florida's access to best-in-class technology for their agriculture and their water and their wildlife, but more than that, it has to do with the United States, both domestically and abroad. No ifs, ands, or buts. Mar-a-Lago exists here. Florida is a very consequential state within the 10 times higher than aspirin, and we're using about 50 grams per each operation. That's as much as can fit in the palm of your hand, right? That's less flour than is in a slice of bread. So the amount that accumulates into watersheds is in the parts per trillion after decades of operation, and we have data to prove that from programs that exist throughout the United States. This leads me into another point, which is the precedent that other states have set in cloud seeding permitting and licensing. So I think that, per what I said at the top of my commentary, the spirit of this bill to protect Floridians, to protect Americans from environmental pollution, that is great. And I think that permitting and licensing absolutely should exist. It does exist in states like Texas and Utah and Idaho. So this isn't a blue state or red state issue. California has a process as well. New Mexico has a process. And we don't want anybody wantonly modifying the weather, so implementing a permitting regime so that it's only done responsibly and safely with best-in-class meteorological effect on radar. So the National Center for Atmospheric Research produced some great results from what's called the SNOWY campaign, where they were able to verify cloud seeding's effect, and they saw tens of millions of gallons of precipitation occur from each of their interventions, and that was very, very easily distinguishable on radar. It also is worth saying that it's local in its scope, and it is very short temporally. So if ever there is cloud seeding going on and you don't like the consequences of it, there are unintended consequences, and it's quite well characterized so the unintended consequences are minimal. You can stop whenever you like. So that point of differentiation between solar radiation management, which is something that I think the public should scrutinize more heavily, and cloud seeding is important to make from the top. Then the second point I'd like to make is that well, it has to do with the safety of cloud seeding, right? Because this has to do with environmental health, particularly pollution. Cloud seeding is conventionally done with a chemical called silver iodide. It's LD50, so its lethal dose is permitting and licensing for cloud seeding, which is a technology that other states throughout the union have adopted and created. I advocate for wholeheartedly, but SRM is something altogether different.
Thank you, Mr. Dorico. I think Senator Pizzo has a question.
Modification research and operations.
The weather in 2025 has gotten so abnormal that people don't even believe what they're seeing in the sky. Nothing I'm going to show you in this video is AI. It's all real videos of things really happening. Wonder what could cause all these lights in the sky. Now on my pages I've been showing y'all about how we've had this green bluish light that accompanies every very crazy storm. We spoke earlier about frequencies, right? Did you know that frequency affects everything? Patterns, colors, shapes, weird anomalies in the sky? And completely unrelated, you should check out the science on the East Coast and Alaska, a few other places. By the way, this is the fire now that is in Turkey burning up literally everything. With all this crazy stuff comes fires all the time. Wow. But did you know besides Turkey, besides Idaho, that California is on fire and getting bigger every single day? Strange patterns in the sky, the earth catching on fire, floods. I mean, what else could there be? Funniest part about all of it, 2 years ago, some of y'all were saying that this stuff is normal. Goodbye. What are the chances that this matched up with the flood perfectly? Come right back to it. When you see what I've found, there'll be no doubt. No doubt of what? Exactly. Again. So while the country is celebrating right now, we have 20 girls still missing from Camp Mystic and 25 people who have all died from the floods. They are saying that by 2 a.m. tonight, the flooding is going to be at 45 to 60 foot from 3 foot. Obviously, the river. So I showed you earlier how this hurricane formation stood over Texas right here for 12 to 18 hours, right? Well, look at this right here. This is the Schumann frequency, the Earth's resonance, and it's never been like this before. Neither me nor anyone I know who's been watching the Schumann resonance for years upon years upon years have ever seen this pattern before. So I'm trying to get a quick answer. I'm like, Grok, when did this major flooding start? 3 a.m. July 4th, 1 a.m. to 3 p.m. The first time this has ever showed up. So what could affect the Schumann frequency? I don't know. Frequencies? And oddly enough, when Western NC was going on, I remember a discrepancy with the Schumann frequency then as well. Remember, it didn't move for 20 hours? Quarter of a whole year's all rain dumped within a 10-hour period. And here's all the information available for the 20 girls that are still missing. Save it, bookmark it, whatever. And pray. They are actively finding bodies every 20 to 30 minutes. This is where an RV park used to be, but I want you to notice the sky. The sky looks very odd right here, doesn't it? Oh, what you saw at the beginning, we have a possible hurricane coming to South Carolina and North Carolina. By the way, completely irrelevant, not related whatsoever. Do y'all remember when they found blue rain in Texas just a few months back? That was wild, wasn't it? We have meteorologists calling out these strange weather patterns and warning Austin, Texas now. Because for some reason, these storms are just stalling and are not moving. At the same time, this is the dam right now in Texas. And the water's still expected to go up 10, 20 foot. You know, I do remember a storm that happened last year that was downplayed and they were finding bodies for days after. And unrelated, it stalled as well. I just can't believe how bad this is. 28 people so far have confirmed to have passed away, but that number is rising every single hour. What you see up here is Kerrville before the flood, and this is Kerrville after the flood. They're calling this a 1 in 1,000 year storm. The weird thing is we're having these once in a millennia storm happening every single day. That was China up there. This was 2 days ago in Kentucky. Everything we've been witnessing the past few months seems so revelatic.
Not real weird.
Yeah, I know, I made it up. And when we're talking about biblical-sized plagues, God never said exactly how it's going to come to pass. Don't forget what I showed you last night, that exactly when the flooding started, the Schumann frequency did something it's never, ever done before. The entire time it was flooding and getting crazy, the Schumann frequency was glitching because there is some kind of crazy frequency. And yes, again, tropical storm, maybe hurricane heading to the Carolinas. And the thing is, even though it seems like nothing, we've been fooled before. Just last week I did a video on my research of weather trends going back hundreds of years and also temperature changes and how the fluctuations in the temperature always signals a giant hurricane. You see the chart right here. Every time there's a massive fluctuation, meaning up or down, we had the 1718, the Great Hurricane. 22 to 28,000 fatalities. And then 1910, again, a fluctuation, was the Cuba hurricane. And guess where we are now? Another massive fluctuation. But this time, it's much hotter. And again, all things are frequency. Completely unrelated, like how all these sharks and other things are just washing up. Also unrelated, the human frequency is frequency. Also, the frequency that must emerge from a giant Sprite popping out in Mexico 12 hours ago before all this. Go watch my last 3 or 4 videos, everything's all put together.
In Japan, the ground never stays still. It's one of the most earthquake-prone countries on Earth, and tremors strike every single day.
Oh my God, the building's gonna fall!
About 1,500 annually. Some more deadly than others. As a correspondent here, covering earthquakes comes with the territory.
So this is our storage room, and in here it's always fully stocked with our emergency gear. You have freeze-dried foods, sleeping bag, first aid kits, everything we need to cover a natural disaster like an earthquake.
But never in my career have I seen this much fear over an earthquake prediction. Made in a manga.
So this is the book that's predicting a massive tsunami hitting Japan.
The comic claims that in July of this year, a massive jolt will hit off the Philippines coast, triggering a giant tsunami that'll inundate Japan. The rumors caused so much unfounded panic that some tourists are canceling their summer trips. Hong Kong Airlines has even cut flights to the country due to lower demand amid this baseless gossip.
You do get fortune tellers sometimes predicting when the next big one will hit Japan, but I think the reason why some people believe this artist is because in 1999, she dreamt of a major disaster in March 2011. And that just so happens to be when a huge earthquake and tsunami hit northern Japan and killed thousands of people. The government's calling the July rumor a hoax, emphasizing that predicting when an earthquake would hit is scientifically impossible.
でそういう意味で、現在我々が持っているデータから予測するというのは極めて難しいことだと思います。まず一つ目ですけども、我々が近代的な地震観測網を使って地震を観測できているのが30年から40年ぐらいです現在で。別な理由として、まず我々が応力状態、地下の応力状態を直接知ることができないというのが一番の理由です。
For decades, Japan has warned about the big one, the Nankai Trough megathrust earthquake. In a worst-case scenario, it could measure as high as 8 or 9 in magnitude. Nearly 300,000 people could die. Damage could reach $1.81 trillion, or nearly half of Japan's total gross domestic product. Like most massive quakes in Japan, the Nankai Trough megaquake is expected to trigger a tsunami too. Waves could reach up to 30 meters. But even small ripples can be deadly, something Taro Arikawa, who studies tsunamis, wants people to grasp through his simulation.
実際の体験施設なんかでは、流されて終わりということですけど、流された先に何があるかわからないし、人が流された場合というのは何センチであっても今度は自分のコントロールができなくなってしまうので、本当に生きるか死ぬかということがわからなくなるというふうな形になりますね。
To test the force of just a 40-centimeter wave, I gave the simulation a try.
流れないんじゃないかとは思ってるんですけど、大丈夫じゃないかとは思ってます。
You saw how easily it got washed away, so you can imagine that when the waves are a lot bigger than this, just how much more powerful and fatal they could be.
Fears of this megaquake were renewed last August. A major tremor shook the edge of the trough, activating Japan's first ever megaquake advisory. Some scientists criticized the warning as seeding unfounded panic over a megaquake that may never come. But others believe it's only a matter of time.
30年に限らず起きるか起きないかでいうと必ず起きます。
The truth is, no one knows when disaster will hit Japan. But in a country where the ground never rests, preparation is the only certainty. Never in my career have I seen this much fear over an earthquake prediction, made in a manga.
So this is the book that's predicting a massive tsunami hitting Japan. 我手中嘅呢本漫畫，相信大家都未必唔去日本，但係7月之前都唔可以去啦。
You do get fortune tellers sometimes predicting when the next big one will hit Japan, but I think the reason why some people believe this artist is because in 1999 she dreamt of a major disaster in March 2011. And that just so happens to be when a huge earthquake and tsunami hit northern Japan and killed thousands of people.
The rumors caused so much unfounded panic that some tourists are canceling their summer trips. Hong Kong Airlines has even cut flights to the country due to lower demand amid this baseless gossip. The government's calling the July rumor a hoax, emphasizing that predicting when an earthquake would hit is scientifically impossible.
でそういう意味で、現在我々が持っているデータから予測するというのは極めて難しいことだと思います。
Well, terror is spreading across the country of Japan, and not from official warnings, but from the pages of a 1990 manga, as over 1,000 earthquakes rattle the exact location foretold by artist Ryo Tatsuku decades ago. He is better known as the new Baba Vanga. In just days, over $4 billion in tourism funds has really evaporated, and fears of a catastrophic mega earthquake predicted for July 5th are driving people to flee, stockpile supplies, and brace for a possible disaster. There's more.
the air in Japan crackles with an almost unbearable tension. With only hours remaining until July 5th, a viral manga prophecy predicting a devastating mega-quake has gripped the nation, turning anticipation into palpable dread. Eerily, recent earthquakes have been detected at the exact location foretold in the comic book. While the Japan Meteorological Agency urges calm, the chilling coincidence has already inflicted a staggering $4 billion loss in tourism, leaving a nation on edge and bracing for a potential apocalypse. The chilling narrative began with Ryo Tatsuki's manga The Future I Saw, a work that gained notoriety for seemingly accurate past predictions, including the devastating 2011 Tohoku tsunami.
A lot of buyers of The Future I Saw, the customers who visit our shop, are young people. So of course, as July approached, the information about it spread on social media, mainly on TikTok. But it seems to be selling as word spreads.
Now, an updated edition points to July 5th, 2025 as the date for another catastrophic event. A massive tsunami triggered by an underwater rupture between Japan and the Philippines, with waves potentially 3 times higher than those seen in 2011. The economic fallout is already severe. Fear-stricken tourists, particularly from Hong Kong, have cancelled flights and hotel bookings en masse, resulting in an estimated $4 billion in losses for Japan's vital tourism sector. Airlines have slashed routes and a massive drop in foreign tourists.
The rumors have had a significant impact, cutting our Japan-related business by around 50%. However, the demand for other destinations such as mainland China and Southeast Asia has grown.
I think for me, the most important thing about traveling is safety. Hearing this prediction, I would also try my best to avoid going to Japan during July and August. If possible, I might delay my trip and go after September.
Now the manga drew the epicenter near Tokara, the exact place where over 1,000 earthquakes were registered this week, forcing Japanese authorities to order evacuations on the remote island. The fault zone is long feared by real-world geologists. Japanese authorities have warned that there is an 80% chance of a magnitude 9 earthquake originating from the Nankai Trough, an 800-kilometer trench that runs parallel to the coast of southern Japan, occurring before 2055. The eerie similarity between the prophecy and the multiple quakes are worrying for many. Is it coincidence or something more? Science is fighting back against superstition. The Japan Meteorological Agency has stepped in, branding the viral prophecy a hoax and urging citizens not to heed rumors.
The famous astronomer Carl Sagan, he once said that extraordinary claims should require extraordinary evidence. But these predictors are making extraordinary claims with the flimsiest of flimsy evidence. Basically none at all.
For now, Japan holds its breath. Is this the day fiction becomes fate, or just another chapter in the country's long history of seismic survival?
Now there is a quake storm in southern Japan. More than 900 earthquakes in just 2 weeks, and they're still not stopping.
Well, the remote Tokara Island chain has been shaken non-stop since the 21st of June. The latest, a 5.5 magnitude quake, hit on Wednesday afternoon, triggering an emergency press briefing by Japan's weather agency.
Officials say they don't know when this will end, and for residents, that uncertainty is the scariest part. One resident said it feels like it's always shaking and it's very scary to even fall asleep. Others say they're considering evacuation, especially for their children. These islands, located south of Kyushu Island, are home to just 700 people, but 7 out of 12 islands are inhabited.
A similar episode unfolded in September 2023, but this time the activity is far more intense. Japan sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a global hotspot for seismic activity. On average, Japan faces 1,500 earthquakes every year, accounting for 18% of the world's total.
Earlier this year, nearly 600 people died when a powerful quake struck the Noto Peninsula on New Year's Day. Now, with 900 quakes and counting, Tokara residents are living in fear, waiting for the shaking to stop.
So what just happened in Texas is absolutely devastating. Prayers to the families. And so I've read anywhere between 25 and 40 feet within 4 hours. Does that sound normal to you guys? So this map right here shows 4 different areas in Texas where they do the cloud seeding. This is right out in the open. They tell us this is what we do. We inject all of these chemicals up in the sky to create rain. And where this flood happened was right in between 2 of them right here. And so it sucks to even mention this because people are like, oh, this is disrespectful. But I think it's disrespectful if we don't bring it up. This is very suspect how quickly this happened. Watch. And so what was the first thing you thought when you saw this on the news? Did you think this was a natural occurrence? Or did Lyndon B. Johnson's words right here, did they come to you?
That will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Today we're going to hit on the floods in Texas, and my heart goes out to anybody who's been affected by this. This is just nuts. The government keeps doing this nonsense over and over again, and today we're going to talk about it. So why did I say the government? Well, let's go to Texas Government Weather Modification tab. Check this. Weather modification and control means changing and controlling or attempting to control and change the natural development of atmospheric clouds. This is right on the Texas government website. So then I decided to click the operations in Texas. So it says map of rain enhancement projects. And right where the floods occur is where the rain enhancement projects are taking place. You can actually email them if you have a concern. So then I find the weather modification document by Rainmaker Technology, and it talks about how there's no environmental impact of doing any of this. Same dates as when it happened and approved by the Department of Commerce. And someone might say, well, why'd you say the U.S. Department of Commerce? Check this, federal agencies involved in weather modification research, Department of Commerce, and these ones as well. And what's more wild is I found a bill that was shot down in Texas to ban all of these things just before all of this, but they decided not to pass it. And then I found this one where it says weather modification has been taking place in Texas since the 1890s. So when people are like, oh, the weather is so crazy, nothing is real, that's for sure. And it's kind of controversial. So then I decided to look up other times in which weather modification has gone horribly wrong. Well, we know about the floods in Dubai, we know about the floods in North Carolina. I mean, I can name a bunch. So basically they're just messing with the sky. See these towers right here? That's what they're using right there. And then they combine those towers with this nonsense that they spray up in the sky, and basically they dam up the sky, and then there's a great flood in that area. And on that note, I would research Cloudbusters so that you can counter this nonsense, because they're just going to keep orchestrating these events unless people get together and say, I don't want this anymore with the government, or do something about it.
The floods, do you think that the federal government needs to hire back any of the meteorologists who were fired in the last few months?
I wouldn't know that. I really wouldn't. I would think not. This was a thing that happened in seconds. Nobody expected it. Nobody saw it. Very talented people are there, and they didn't see it. It's, I guess they said once in 100 years, they've never seen anything like this. So I wouldn't, I mean, people are trying to blame the school. They're trying to blame the camp. They're trying to blame, it's just a horrible thing. But no, I wouldn't say that, no.
Yeah, they told us to watch the waters, and now for some reason the waters cannot stop coming. They are literally coming out of everywhere. This is somewhere in Colombia. It seems that the earth is literally shifting, y'all. I'm talking about physically. The crazy thing is, y'all, it didn't even rain that hard, but somewhere there's a lot of water coming up. Like, is it coming from underneath the ground? Look at this, y'all. What is now, you know that there are mountains, so this caused a massive landslide as well, y'all. Look at this. Check this out. Just hear that water roaring, y'all. That is powerful. Now, have you seen what's going on in Santo Domingo, Medellin, y'all? They got the whole Charlie and the Chocolate Factory out there, y'all. Look at this. Y'all, we're literally in the times of Noah, y'all. Look at that, y'all. The mud flood. Oh, my goodness. This is crazy. Why is it coming in like waves like that? And again, it barely rained. So what is triggering this landslide? Wow. I'm telling y'all, our life is literally a movie. Y'all, and it keeps coming. And it keeps coming. Oh my goodness. Is that what is that? I thought that was a person. That's just some boxes. But nonetheless, this thing just keeps.
So did you know about this massive plan that Kerrville, Texas, which is having this unprecedented flood? There's a whole big plan to modify the entire city, change, and of course they use the word resilience. If you know anything about agenda, you know what? 2 numbers. You'll know that resiliency is a buzzword, which really means further control. But my point is that it's shocking that this place was set to have a whole change up, and now there's a flood going on. And many people will say, that's just a strange coincidence or nothing to be alarmed or be concerned about. And then we have this guy emailing Rainmaker Corporation, asking them if they modified the weather. Of course, that's not confirmed. We are not claiming that, but people are asking that because, just read that. If you want to talk about this fully uncensoredly, comment the word Rumble, and I'll send you a link to my Rumble live stream channel. We go live every night talking about stuff like this and other things that we can't mention on here. Comment Rumble, check your DMs, make a Rumble account, follow me there, and turn on live notifications so you don't miss it.
American citizens, today the Palantir AI database on you is in effect. Starting today, every American citizen has a file on you for the government created by an AI company, Palantir. Everything about you is compiled in a digital file, most notably your social media. Every post that you have ever liked, commented, saved, shared, reposted is now in the database. That's if you created an account using your phone number, or any verifiable account like Facebook, which includes Instagram. This Palantir AI law now says you can face deportation and prison time over stuff that the government has the full authority to tell us what it is in the time. Meaning we don't know it's illegal now. We don't know what commenting on is illegal. By the way, Palantir was created and operated by Israelis. So just take a guess what could land you in jail. The scary thing, this law is set up that you have zero constitutional rights over it, as it's for the safety of America. Make sure to follow me for the newest update.
You need a higher purpose, and I also think you often need a lower purpose. Like the higher purpose for me...
What's a lower purpose?
Well, I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who tried to screw us. So that's my lower purpose. And, and others. But the higher purpose for me was to get this nation to be the preeminent power in the world, because whatever faults we have, they're nothing like anyone else's.
So the Senate just passed the big beautiful bill, but what should Christians think about it? Well, for context, here's what's in the massive bill. It extends Trump-era tax cuts, which aim to boost the economy. It eliminates federal income tax on tips and overtime, which aims to boost the amount of money that workers can take home. It also slashes funding for Medicaid and food stamps, which could leave millions of people without health care or assistance. And it also increases spending on border security, military, and NASA. Some Christians say it's good for jobs and national security, but here's the conflict. Jesus calls us to care for the poor, the sick, and the vulnerable. And here's something that doesn't sit right. This bill cuts funding for programs that help the vulnerable, supposedly saving money, yet it adds trillions to the national debt, and at the same time it helps the most fortunate add more money to their pockets. According to the Washington Post, the bottom 10% of households will supposedly lose $1,600 a year, while the top 10% of households will gain $12,000 a year. Cutting help for the poor, growing the national debt, and helping those who are already wealthy, that sounds like a moral contradiction for Christians. Romans 13 reminds us that the government should promote justice and protect the most vulnerable. So as Christians, we have to ask, does this bill help those who are struggling, or does it leave them behind? Because we can build a strong economy and protect our nation without sacrificing the poor and vulnerable. But what do you guys think about the big beautiful bill? Comment down below.
This is Charles Schwab. It's not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad, because he's a financial.
President Trump was taking money from the pharmaceutical industry too. I think they gave you $100 million.
Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick follow-up. Is the president okay with this bill adding to the deficit?
This bill does not add to the deficit. In fact, according to the Council of Economic Advisors, this bill will save $1.6 trillion. And the president absolutely understands and hears the concerns of fiscal conservatives and of Americans who want to get our fiscal house in order. That's what the intention of this bill is. There's $1.6 trillion worth of savings in this bill. That's the largest savings for any legislation that has ever passed Capitol Hill in our nation's history. The next bill that even comes close was $800 billion. That's less than half of the savings that we see in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so the goal of this bill is to produce economic growth, to cut taxes, and to get our fiscal house in order. And this is the right step in the right direction towards doing that. It
came from Russia, they said. No, it didn't come. A lot of things come from Russia. That didn't come from Russia. and it was all proven out to be a fake job, and that's what they're doing with this. So.
Breaking news, D.C. is locking down. They're bracing for something big. Steel barricades are being erected right now around the White House and the U.S. Treasury building, and nobody's giving an official reason. Overnight, anti-scale fences started going up, the kind used when they expect major unrest. And here's what's coming.
Down in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, they're ordering state law enforcement to elevate readiness. The vice president says the U.S. is ready to defend itself.
Well, it's always hard to guess what the other side is going to do, but what we're prepared for is if they attack us in a maximal direction, first of all, we've got maximum defensive posture. I think that we're going to be able to defend as many of our people as possible. And of course, I'd encourage Americans to pray for our guys in the Middle East because, yes, they are under a significant amount of duress and a significant amount of threat right now. But then, of course, John, if the Iranians attack us, they're going to be met with overwhelming force.
And at the same time, we are seeing a concerning alliance brewing. Russia's former president says multiple countries are already providing Iran with nuclear warheads. A former Russian president posting on X talking about enrichment of nuclear material, saying in part, quote,
Really important, time-sensitive PSA for your situational awareness. There is another Event 201 style type of pandemic exercise scenario that involves terrorists releasing a bioweapon virus on July 5th of 2025. The scenario is in the National Blueprint for Biodefense, and it includes the dispersal of the Nipah virus, which comes out of Malaysia, and then the government has to come in and surveil everything using artificial intelligence to save the day. The Nipah virus has a mortality rate of between 40 to 70%, and it affects the respiratory area as well as the brain, causing encephalitis, which is swelling of the brain. It's important to note that those mortality rates are from third world countries that do not have the same sanitation practices that we have over here in the West. In this scenario, the main dispersal does occur on July 4th of 2025 as we are celebrating our nation, but the scenario also states that there were other test dispersals that went relatively undetected by our authorities. The scenario in the blueprint also calls for an AI-driven national health data system that aggregates your health data across all sectors in the United States of America. It also recommends a live digital pathogen surveillance system all run by artificial intelligence. Now, obviously, to make that happen, we would need some kind of national database that aggregated all of the people in the United States of America, like, I don't know, like the Palantir database.
Something big is brewing in Washington. Steel walls, blackouts, and total silence. Washington, D.C. is quietly transforming into a fortress, and no one is talking about it. Over the past 48 hours, crews have been installing steel barricades, anti-climb fences, and surveillance blockers around some of the most critical government buildings, including the White House, the Treasury, and federal courthouses. No official statement, no press conference, just silence and heavily armed presence. But here's what we do know. June 28, massive protests expected from immigrant rights groups and anti-surveillance movements. July 4, Independence Day, and the date tied to a rumored presidential announcement said to change the direction of the country. Military helicopters have been flying in patterns every night. Unmarked vehicles and uniformed men with no ID have been seen near metro stations. Public cameras are going offline. Streets are being blocked for maintenance. And insiders are calling this the quiet lockdown. Is this preparation for a threat we don't know about? Or is the government preparing for chaos from within? Comment, we deserve the truth. If you feel something is off, share this video before it disappears, and follow me for minute-by-minute updates, because if they're building walls in the dark, what they're afraid of must already be here. Something big is brewing in Washington. Steel walls, blackouts, and total silence. Washington, D.C. is quietly transforming into a fortress, and no one is talking about it. Over the past 48 hours, crews have been installing steel barricades, anti-climb fences, and surveillance blockers around some of the most critical government buildings, including the White House, the Treasury, and federal courthouses. No official statement, no press conference, just silence and heavily armed presence. But here's what we do know. June 28th, massive protests expected from immigrant rights groups and anti-surveillance movements. July 4th, Independence Day, and the date tied to a rumored presidential announcement said to change the direction of the country. Military helicopters have been flying in patterns every night. Unmarked vehicles and uniformed men with no ID have been seen near metro stations. Public cameras are going offline. Streets are being blocked for maintenance. And insiders are calling this the quiet lockdown. Is this preparation for a threat we don't know about? Or is the government preparing for chaos from within? Comment, we deserve the truth. If you feel something is off, share this video before it disappears. And follow me for minute-by-minute updates, because if they're building walls in the dark, what they're afraid of must already be here.
it smashed into trees. Caitlin Carpenter watched as her friend's house washed away before her eyes.
It was terrifying, honestly. I was not expecting that. I was really shaken up.
The river rose nearly 13 feet in a little over 2 hours. Rescues are underway, with several people already brought to safety.
Bloom Bridge completely compromised. We are all backing out of the water's way.
The National Weather Service issuing a severe thunderstorm warning at 3:45 local time. Later cautioning, seek higher ground now. The current will carry away your vehicle. The village particularly vulnerable after wildfires in the area last year. Just a couple of weeks ago, a flash flood swept through a burn scar there, where tonight, once again, there's a frantic search to make sure everyone is accounted for. Camila Bernal, NBC News.